But yeah, like I was saying, like, and I remember like even just I was just giving an just a random example, but I remember like when I was like first started secondary school, say for example, like I was, you know, obviously I'm not promoting violence or anything like that, but when I was younger I was a bit of a hothead, if you see what I mean in that regard. So I happily fight anyone really, but obviously there'd be certain people who were like in the last year of school who are a lot older, like you are 11 years old, 12 years old, you've just started secondary school, and they're like 16, 17 years old, much bigger and taller. Like certain people you wouldn't want to mess with, kind of thing, because you knew, you know, you had that emotional intelligence within your head that you knew that if you fought for this person, you know, if you did, you know, if you did have to fight with this person for whatever reason, if you did have a disagreement or something happened or whatever, then you would have to try to find an alternative means to deal with this person, if you get what I'm trying to say. Like, you know, like you've got to find something to hit them with or something, you know. But like I was saying, you got that, when you're young, you've got that emotional intelligence that tells you, like, you know, this is not the smartest thing to do, messing with this person, so maybe you should avoid them in that regard, if you see what I mean, because they, you know.
You've got to be smart to be
So
survive.
it's about picking your battles. Like sometimes people want to, sometimes you have to know when to fold your cards. And I think that's a good analogy to use, because a lot of people, you know, I think people got to know when to fold your cards. You know, so sometimes there's no shame in walking away from something, walking away from a confrontation, or whatever. You know what I mean? I think like a lot of us growing up, especially like me growing up in the environment I grew up in, like if you to walk away from a, like, especially when I was young, like if you to walk away from a confrontation, like you would lose a lot of respect. Like that's something that you just didn't do, if you see what I mean. Like, but now that I'm older, I start, and you, like I said, you mature, you start to understand certain things, and you've got certain priorities and responsibilities in life. Sometimes you think to yourself, you know what? Now I've got the emotional intelligence to, like, if I can avoid something, I will avoid it. Of course, you can't avoid everything. Sometimes things happen. That's just the reality of life. But if you can avoid it, why not avoid it? And that's how I kind of look at things, if you see what I mean. Any kind of conflict or confrontation with anyone or whatever the case may be, I try my utmost to, you know, treat people, everyone with respect, to avoid, you know, respect and love, you know, to try to avoid, you know.
Another thing important in life is to keep yourself safe.
Yeah, of course.
That's another important thing. But everyone, I think, or every living thing is trying to keep themselves safe from danger.
Yeah.
I mean, when you go to sleep, I mean, especially if you're in the jungle, do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Right.
You know, you're not awake, are you, and being alert and looking out for anything anymore. Do you know what I mean? You're asleep. You know, you're more likely to be eaten by a hyena, you know, because they do hunt by night. They do.
Yeah.
You know, it's quite dangerous actually. When you sleep, you know, you're not conscious, are you? You know, you could be taken by something. You know.
Yeah.
You know, it's just quite interesting, isn't it? You know, when you think about, you know, I think it's quite an interesting subject to talk about, really.
Oh, definitely. Everyone and everything is on a mission to survive.
Of course, you know.
That is priority number one. That's always priority number one. And then everything else comes after that, if you see what I mean. All, whether it be our job, whether it be, you know, our hobbies, our passions, our activities, our, you know, things that we, you know, enjoy doing, all that shit comes after that, if you see what I mean. Like the priority is to make sure you're okay, of course, you know.
So if you were a chimpanzee in the jungle, yeah, what chimpanzee would you rather be, yeah? Would you rather be an all-wise chimpanzee that was about 50 years old, or a young 5-year-old chimpanzee walking through a jungle? You know, which one would you choose? Would you rather be a young one or an old one? Would you rather be an old monkey or a young one? That's what I'm trying to say. Of a 5-year-old chimpanzee walking through a jungle.
What is the life expectancy of a chimpanzee?
Well, you've got to think like a 5-year-old, right, monkey, chimpanzee, doesn't really, not really wear off snakes or anything really so much.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. What is the life expectancy of a chimpanzee?
Well, I think like chimpanzees live about 55.
So he's close to death.
He's quite old, yeah, but...
So in that case, I'd want to be the younger one.
Yeah, but
But if he had another 50 years to live, I would have been the older one. I would have been the older one, because obviously if he survived for 50 years in the jungle, obviously he survived a long time and he's navigated for 50 years to survive all this time and all this shit, and he's still got another 50 years to live, then why not?
Yeah, but
if he's about to die 5 years later, let's say, I'd much rather be the younger one.
Yeah, but the young monkey probably only going to last a day because he's going to be eaten by some lions or whatever. Or,
well,
you know
not necessarily, because if that other one navigated for 50 years,
what I'm talking about, this chimp, right? He's lost from his mum.
Mm.
He's got no guidance whatsoever. You know, he's kind of like, you know, he's lost chimp. You know, so I don't think he's going to survive for a day. You know what I mean? Because he's not picked up enough knowledge. Alright, say human then, not a monkey, you know. You know, but yeah, it's just fun to talk about that.
Yeah.
You know? Just interesting, you know. And,
hypothetical.
You know, I'm just pleased I survived today even.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Give thanks. Give thanks for life, mate. Life, as we always say, life is the greatest blessing, you know?
Yeah.
Don't ever forget to appreciate that, and you know, we always like to remind people of that because that is so important. Remember that life in itself is the blessing, you know?
I mean, if we didn't die, if we never died, say, you know, you know, like death didn't exist, we were born. I mean, you can imagine this planet, right? It'd be full up now, wouldn't it?
I know this may sound strange to a lot of people, right? And some people might not understand, but I'm the type of person that I enjoy life so much that if I had the choice not to die, I would probably choose not to die.
I think death is part of life, really.
But death is part of life. But what I am saying is that there's some people that would say no. I you know, even if I had the option, I'd still want to just go through the natural cycle and die. But what I'm saying is that if there was an option where you could kind of live forever, you know, somehow, you know, in the future they might, you know, I don't know, they might develop somehow, some way. I might be open to that idea, if you see what I mean, you know.
I don't think I would.
I quite like, you know, but I'm just the type of person that I enjoy life so much, like, in that regard, if you see what I mean. Not saying that I don't embrace the cycle of life, because that is life and that's just the way it goes, if you see what I mean. You know, everything has a beginning, everything has an end, if you see what I mean, apart from probably the universe and, you know, a few other things, you know.
Maybe we're born here, yeah? And we grow.
Yeah.
And we get more intelligent, you know, and we get wise.
Yeah.
And then we die, yeah? Our body does. But our soul continues to grow, yeah? Somehow, you know, because it's got intelligence now, yeah? So it's intelligence within itself, you know? And it gets more intelligent, then it becomes a god to another planet. You know, you become a god to another planet. You know, like, there's lots of different sort of theories or, you know, different things we can think about. Or
what the goal is, right, mate, in my personal opinion, if anyone asks me, the goal is, right, mate,
yeah,
to raise your vibration and your frequency as high as possible. And that has always been the goal. I think the ancient people always knew this. You know what I mean? The esoteric knowledge really is all about raising, you know, basically understanding that the higher you raise the vibration and frequency of your mind and your body, that when it is your time to go, that you ascend onto a higher dimension if your vibration is that high. If not, you go back through the reincarnation cycle.
Maybe, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's another theory, isn't it?
That's another theory. And I kind of agree with that idea to a degree. You know, I think there are people that they say have, you know, like certain people throughout history that they, you know, renowned people that, you know, they say have, you know, have special powers and special abilities and all this type of shit. Like, there are just certain people who I believe who are like just on a higher vibrate, you know, just on a higher frequency, if you see what I mean, you know. So when they do go, they just kind of, you know, their soul and their essence kind of moves on, you know, to a higher form of consciousness, you know.
Well, I feel like that sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, just. I feel like.
Even Gnostic people, like a lot of these scriptures and shit and all that type of stuff, like spiritual stuff, a lot of spiritual knowledge and texts and stuff like this that come from like Gnostics and stuff like this, Gnosticism. Like even there, one of the main beliefs of that is like you know, the same thing. You know, they believe that the more knowledge you had, the more the higher you raise your vibration in your mind and your body, and the more knowledge and everything else that you acquire, the more enlightened you became. That you would fully, you know, you would kind of reach like Christ, like a Christ-like status, if you see what I mean. You know. So, if you see what I mean, like, you know, and that when it was your time to transform, you know, and move on to the next realm, that you would go to a higher consciousness. You know,
maybe. Yeah, isn't it funny that, I mean, most people have children, yeah? Some people can't have children, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But most people sort of like, they can't wait to have children, some people, whatever, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
But isn't it funny that we don't really need to have children to survive? You know, and in fact, like, having children really sort of more likely to sort of deprive our lifespan a bit, you know? Make it shorter in a kind of way, you know, like, you know, children sort of make your hair turn grey, basically. You know, get you all, you know, quite quickly. You know, they make you wrinkly a little bit because they worry you a lot, whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But I'm just sort of thinking, you know, isn't it funny how we are sort of like we're born, you know, and it's kind of in us to have children. You know, it's kind of like we must have children.
It's one of those.
It's like God. There's a God there saying you've got to have children.
Yeah, procreate.
Like we're programmed in a funny way.
Well, we were created to procreate. That is just the reality. Otherwise we wouldn't be able to procreate. That is just the reality. That's how I look at it. We were supposed to procreate. Yeah. That's why, like, even back in the day, people used to have 13 and 15 and 20 children.
They did, yeah, they did.
Like, big families. People have big families and all this type of stuff. People used to have loads of children. Like, women used to have loads of kids. Sometimes you have a woman, bless her, that would have 11 kids.
Yeah.
You know, over the course of like 15 years.
Well, I think like nowadays, if you have a child, it's going to cost you a lot of money. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
People are thinking twice a bit.
But that's why the world today has changed significantly in that regard. So that's why, like, today people tend to have less kids because obviously they want to be able to look after their kids and give them good life. They don't want to be struggling and have their kids struggling and, you know, being, you know, and you know. That's why people, you know, people kind of know their limits, if you see what I mean, in regards to knowing what works for them, if you see what I mean, you know. Like,
when you think about that shutdown and all that, lots and lots of people didn't survive that, did they?
Yeah.
Whatever, you know. And I think like we're living in a very difficult world to survive in. It's just difficult. Full stop. You know, let's say the cost of living's going up slowly in time, whatever, every year. And I think it's just getting more difficult.
Yeah, definitely.
And difficult as a human being, basically, to survive in this world. So, as we just said, you know, like, going back 100 years ago, I think people had about 5 children on average. 200 years ago,
more,
10 children.
More, yeah.
Yeah, maybe, many years ago, they had loads of children, honestly. You know, I can't imagine, you know. It was, some people had 100 children, do you know what I mean? They had 5 wives.
Yeah.
You know.
There was a guy out there that had, like, I can't remember, last time I was reading an article about it, actually, I can't remember I think it was an Indian guy, I think, actually. Yeah, but he had like 87 children or something, like, you know.
I mean, can you imagine how many children, if we didn't have no law and order here, and no marriage, whatever, how many babies one man can make?
But look at Genghis Khan. Look at Genghis Khan. And his reign, and his terror, and etc.
I don't know about it.
Like, he impregnated so many women, has so many children, that they say that his genetics apparently is still found within certain people today, believe it or not. So they reckon. Yeah. But anyway, mate, before we wrap it up and call it a night for this week's episode, is there any final words or any closing statements or anything you want to leave with the people, mate, about survival, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is. You just try to enjoy your survival. I think like it's hard survival, but just be strong about it. I think so. I think that's the most important thing. Just be mentally strong about it. Things will get better if you keep trying.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And
yeah.
and you will get wiser slowly in time as well if you keep trying.
Yeah.
Right. I'm still getting wiser and thinking, how can I make my life better? So so it's easier in the future for me to survive, basically. So I'll be happier.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I mean, as we said earlier, talking about money and that, like having a lot of money really is important. Really,
of course, yeah.
For a better survival in this world we're living in. And the more money you've got, not necessarily, depending, I think, how, what your motives are, or your intelligence, or who you are.
Yeah.
So as I said, some people, right, they get a lot of money, it actually destroys them.
Because money is what they call an enhancer.
Yeah.
So the more money you have, the more it will enhance whoever you really are. Will really come to the forefront. People will really see your true colours.
Yeah.
Because some people, they really change really significantly when they get money. Other people, they stay the same. They they don't allow it to to dictate who they are as a person and what they the decisions that they make. But some people
I mean, I'm not rich, okay, but I'm rich with time. But if I come into a lot of money, it would change me a little bit, okay?
Yeah.
Because I'd buy my home. And this is not my home. Okay?
Yeah.
I don't own it, okay? I rent it, whatever. So that would make my life a little bit better if I did own my own home. And I think if everyone was secure, that would make their survival a bit happier, and a better future to survive in.
Definitely.
Way.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Anyway, guys, hope you guys have enjoyed this week's episode. Of course, I did too, mate.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it already, most definitely. We haven't even watched it. We haven't even watched it back yet, and I think it's been a very good episode. Anyway, guys, like I said, hope you guys have enjoyed this week's episode.
Hope you like the gorilla.
That's it. Hope you guys enjoyed the intro. We'll be back again next week with a brand new episode, of course. So stay tuned for that. And keep surviving. Like my mate said, I like the way you put it. Enjoy your survival. Just keep pushing forward. Stay positive. Stay focused. And just try and keep. Just
keep going.
Keep going. Yeah. Stay as strong as possible. Keep just try and keep your head screwed on and just stay focused. And
I can balance on one hand. I'm really strong.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, on that note, rather.
Yeah.
Good night. God bless. One love.